Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the match preview. Collingwood versus Brisbane, Easter Thursday. We can probably argue that this will be dubbed as the game of the season thus far as anticipation is concerned. Both top four sides right now. Brisbane remain undefeated. Pies just a solitary loss against GWS. What else is about this narrative? Well, Collingwood haven't lost to Brisbane since the grand final, and we did everything we could to throw them off their mark going into their Premiership tilt last season, and obviously that was not to be in the end, but there was a lot of heat in that game, particularly the one at the G. So I know, and I'm sure all of us are aware, that Brisbane are going to want to get this one back as soon as possible. And this season hasn't been smooth sailing for the Brisbane Lions thus far. They've had some tricky matches against the likes of, you'd say, Richmond. They struggled. Western Bulldogs, they were down by 39 points just on the weekend gone by. So they've come up against some lesser teams. And now I'm not saying the Western Bulldogs are a lesser team, because they've taken us right to the edge. They beat Carlton, and they're doing what they're doing without the players, the personnel that are on the sidelines right now. But if we go in weeks gone by, and you know what, this conversation is ultimately redundant when we talk about how they've been playing against certain teams. So we talk about Richmond, where it ended up being a 4-5 goal game in the end. Who else did they play? They played Geelong. That was a game where I think Geelong fell short towards the end. I think Brisbane really matched it in that second half. Even the game in round 2 against West Coast, it wasn't an overly convincing win, being 5 goals down in the first quarter. But because of the magnitude of this event, I just don't think that's going to count for anything. It's much like any type of rivalry game. Collingwood going into an Anzac Day against Essendon, a rivalry match against Carlton. It just doesn't matter because of just how big this event is. It opens up the Easter weekend. It'll be a packed out crowd at the Gabba. What do I remember about Brisbane? I've got fond memory. We have fond memories playing against the Brisbane Lions recently. We have that Nick Dacos goal. We have that clutch Lockie Schultz moment. We have the grand final. Yeah, it's been good. It's been good. It's always been difficult travelling to Brisbane for these games, so I'm sure the lads are doing everything they need to do. Well, they've been on an interstate trip for the good part of a week now, so they've extended that so they can go to Brisbane together. What do we want to see? Their profile is very much feed Dane Zorko the ball at or in the half-back line and let him go to work. He continues to defy that age narrative, the old age narrative, too slow, too old, and he's definitely defying that, along with some handy helpers playing for another side in the black and white, and that's Scott Pendlebury, still side bottom, Jeremy Howe, you can throw Jamie Elliott in there. These players are just continue to perform beyond their use-by date. Ned Long is probably going to be a big focal point for Brisbane going into this game. He was the 5th highest rated player for round 5. We know he collected 29 disposals and ended up walking away with 9 coaches' votes. So he got acknowledgement all the way around, and we've got to be mindful not to pump this guy's tires up too much. He's had 2 or 3 really good performances, and I know some people are talking Tom Mitchell. He's already replaced Tom Mitchell. That might be the case, but I'm not sold on that just yet, even though the early signs are very, very promising. Very promising. I just want to see what type of damage Brisbane are doing in their games and where it's coming from. I haven't had much of a chance to watch them, but we know what they do best. Levi and Will Ashcroft have been doing great things. Eric Hipwood was relatively quiet for the first half versus the Bulldogs, and he came out of nowhere and kicked 5 goals from 5 shots. So very efficient. Zach Bailey continues to be a problem for the league, and we talk about fond memories for the Pies. A fond memory for the Lions way back in 2021 was that shot after the siren in the first or second round at Marvel, I think it was. So that hurt. That certainly hurt. But we're going to bring the heat. We dominated Sydney in the contested possession realm. So strategically, we sort of outwitted them. Talk about the experience, side bottom Pendlebury sort of guiding the troopers out there. What else did we see from Brisbane versus the Western Bulldogs? Their stoppage game looks good. Turnover game looks good. They're going to be dangerous everywhere. They're scoring from kick-ins, and that's it. Even that statistical category is sort of, you're lucky to score a goal a game from that stat alone. And Brisbane were able to score on 2 instances through a kick-in and 2 goals from centre bounce as well. So they've got weapons everywhere. Yes, they lost Joe Danaher. I don't know how else. It's just going to be a difficult match. We can preview this match as much as we want. We can highlight certain players. We know Harris Andrews continues to dominate the back line. So you're looking at players like Brodie Mychek, who's been in great form. 9 shots in 2 games. Granted, against Carlton, he missed all 5 of his shots. 3 behinds, 2 didn't register, but then bounced back very quickly on the scoreboard against Sydney. But we know Brodie Mychek, while he can also score goals, he's very good at applying or taking up a defensive assignment on someone like Harris Andrews, who, you know, if you can sort of nullify his game, you go a long way in beating the Brisbane Lions. But Hugh McCluggage is someone would be polling Brownlow votes very early on in the season thus far. What do you have? He had 32 touches, 10 contested possessions, 7 score involvements, and 2 goal assists over the weekend. So, yeah, it's a little bit of a different looking forward line with Logan Morris there and Hipwood being the Twin Towers. I just don't think it really matters sometimes when you lose. I know you lose someone like Joe Danaher's quality in clutch moments, it will matter. But generally speaking, if the whole team is clicking, which you could argue they're not necessarily clicking right now, but the fact of the matter is they're undefeated. They don't have this premiership hangover. What does Dan Gorin say? They've got a premiership kick on. So they're kicking on right now, and hopefully we can shut the lights on their kick on and tell them to go to sleep and stare at the ceiling while we celebrate into the Easter weekend. And who do we have after that? I mean, the occasion doesn't get any smaller after that. We've got Essendon on Anzac Day, so would just love to go into the Essendon game going 5-1 and just banking those early wins so that we can start to give some respite to the older players and do what Geelong typically do. Once they've banked a bunch of wins, they start to rest their Dangerfields, their Tom Hawkins in years gone by, Joel Selwood. So it would give us a lot of room to just buy some of our veterans some time on the sidelines, whether they do like a conditioning program on the side while they miss a couple of weeks here and there, or if they just need the rest, full stop. We will have that luxury. If we can get wins over the likes of Brisbane and Essendon, I mean, I'd like to know what our fixture is after that, because I know how difficult our fixture was said to be going into this year, and we're passing all the marks that you'd like to be able to tick off not without our own injury concerns. I mean, there's been no Dan Houston at times. There's been no Lockie Schultz. There's been no Geordie De Goey. Let's have a look. So we go teams, Collingwood. So we've gotten past Port. We've got past Footscray, Carlton, Sydney. We've got Brisbane right up ahead of us, Essendon, and then Geelong at the G on a Saturday night, Fremantle and Perth, Collingwood versus Adelaide at the G there. It just doesn't get any easier, so there's no real time to take a breath. So that's why it's super important while we're up and playing well, we need to get these wins and bank them, because you just don't know when and if you slip up. We probably don't get an easier run until the back end of the year. Like, that's how far away we're looking to get some easier opponents. But then you could just say, well, what's an easier opponent these days? I mean, Richmond beat Carlton in the very first game. Yeah, it just doesn't get any easier. But we can talk as much as we like, guys. We just want to see another contest. If Collingwood bring the pressure and bring that blueprint in pressure football and just being hard at the contest. Collingwood aren't historically renowned for being a great midfield, centre clearance, contested ball type of side, where we've been very good post the contest, post the clearance. This is a new string we've been adding to our bow, thanks to players like Ned Long and Harry Perryman thus far this year. They've given us a little bit more hardness through the middle. So while it's if we can continue to add that, to up in our arsenal, then we're going to be a very hard side to beat, because one of our knocks in years gone by is statistically we're not a great team and we just know how to win. Well, now we're starting to bank percentage and beat teams convincingly and comprehensively, like Premiership years gone by in 2010, and we know how close we got in 2011, but 2011 our percentage was ridiculous, and I think if we can keep trending this way, there's no reason why we can't believe that we can emulate a season like 2010 and 2011 with the way we're beating teams like Carlton in that third quarter, just dominated them, just put them to the sword, put Sydney to sleep early, dominated Port Adelaide, who have just beat Hawthorn, so they're still a premiership contender in my eyes. The only glitch in the matrix was the GWS game, but we gave the boys a mulligan and they've bounced back since then. So anyhow, we'll leave it at that. What have we got? I wanted to do some sort of Pies Prester today, but there was no real news floating around. There was no injury update. So maybe we do. That's why I'm doing the preview tonight, and we'll probably do a predicted 23 tomorrow and talk about injuries moving forward from there. So if you've made it this far, guys, consider subscribing, and we'll see you next time. Go Pies.